Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells you all regarding family court, criminal court, and other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. And if you have a tale to tell, you're welcome to let me know on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. I'm very honored to have David Thurston on from Wilkes-Barre, PA. Now, he is a determined father and whistleblower from Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. As I said, he's a survivor of the Kids for Cash scandal. And David has fought alone now in the family court since 2015 to protect his nonverbal autistic daughter from abuse and systemic neglect, even after reporting SA by her mother's adult aunt in 2020. Shockingly, the agency in charge, CYS, refused to interview his daughter, then closed the case as unfounded. Soon after, CYS's director was arrested for endangering hundreds of children. Now, the family has returned to court only because the mother was not following prior custody orders. David wanted stronger protections. Instead, when Judge Terra Toohill took over the case in 2023, she, despite a long judicial and political ties to adoption interests and agencies involved, ignored clear perjury against David and fabricated custody factors, accused him of SA without any evidence, and ordered his daughter to undergo an unnecessary RAPE kit exam. Now, today, David is paying $50 per hour for supervised visits, but has not had custody in over 500 days. All the result of judicial decisions steeped in conflict and what appears to be calculated retaliation. In June 2025, the federal government validated David's claims. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services found that Luzerne County violated disability law by failing to properly interview his daughter, forcing Pennsylvania to reform how the system handles vulnerable children. David Thurston's story demonstrates just how serious and systematically dangerous unchecked judicial power and institutional neglect can be. And I'm beyond honored to let him speak his truth today. It's amazing what you've been through. And, to go back in time, when you stood before Judge Chivarella, this concocted Kids for Cash judge. What was that day like for you?
Thank you, Marianne, for having me on the show. Chivarella, it's kind of like before I knew he was doing anything wrong. He was kind of like the boogeyman, Everybody already knew it didn't matter what you did. If you go in front of Chivarella and you don't have a paid attorney, you go to jail. So it doesn't matter what you like. I mean, you could have uh, children that were committing these crimes, like, some horrible crimes. If they had a paid attorney, there's a good chance they won't go to jail. But if you have a public defender, it don't matter what you did, you go to jail automatically. And, a lot of the kids in the poor community, we all knew that, so it was like, you could get in trouble, get suspended from school for something, or there was kids going in front of him for, calling a teacher a name, swearing at the teacher,
Mhm.
and everybody goes to jail. So it was like, we all thought it was normal to just go to jail. We thought that was like a normal thing. So me, my little brother, my sisters, we all been in the system at least once or more.
Mm.
And my cousin Eddie, he was actually one of the well, his mom Sandy, which is my cousin. She was actually one of the main characters in the Kids for Cash film because he ended up killing himself because of Judge Chivarella.
Hmm.
So my family, from my immediate family, my brothers and sisters to, my cousin, we've been through a lot with this system already. And to make matters worse, now I'm in the same exact courthouse. And
Oh,
when I was 11 years old and I just turned 12 years old, I was placed in shackles and handcuffs in this courthouse and walked away, watching my mom crying as they walked a chain gang. They used to hook the chain, hook all of us to the chain. You would hear like the chains
oh.
clinging. Um, as my mom watched them do that to me, now I'm 36 years old and my daughter is now 12 years old, and she's the same age that I was in the same exact courthouse, and now they have taken my autistic daughter away from me unlawfully. So that's the situation I'm in now, where I'm in the same courthouse as the Kids for Cash scandal, dealing with another corrupt judge. And this judge, I see, I'm more afraid of this judge than I was Judge Chivarella, and not afraid in the sense that, um, like I'm just like it's unbelievable how what some of the things that this judge has done to me and my daughter. It's like unbelievable. It's like Chivarella wouldn't even have done some of these things. So that's what I mean when I say like I'm afraid. Like it's just like I can't believe a judge is actually like allowed to do things like this. Just because I don't have $10,000 for an attorney, or because I'm from this class and this group of people. I don't matter as much. And it's like she can just do whatever she wants because she has judicial discretion and she has immunity.
Well, I can tell you from what I've been noticing in the news lately, these judges will probably soon be losing their immunities.
Mm,
I think the day
pray.
will be
Mm,
coming at some point. Wheels of justice are slow, but
yes.
what you and your family have been through is just totally egregious. And this Judge Terra Toohill, her mother spelled her first name wrong. Should be Tara, Tara. But anyway, um, you know, there's some adoption issues with her as well.
Oh yeah, so she comes from a family of like her family adopted over 40 children since the early 90s. So she grew up around this environment of the adoption agencies, and she turned it into an entire career. She was on a judicial committee for 10 years, the House of Representatives for 10 years, overseeing the CYS and adoption laws, and she passed laws to help. She passed laws that would allow children to be adopted faster.
Mm.
So and then she started up a nonprofit that promotes adoption. And between 2016 and 2022, this nonprofit had a revenue of $1.6 million dollars. Now, during that time, between 2016 and 2021, the director of CYS, she was in that position for during that time, and in 2021, she was arrested for endangering hundreds of children. And that's where, weeks prior to that, that's where I had filed my lawsuit. So once that happened, I was just like, this is exactly why I filed my lawsuit.
Mm.
They disregarded my daughter. I made reports to law enforcement about sexual abuse that was happening to my daughter over the course of 2 years, and they decided because my daughter cannot speak, they're just gonna brush her case under the rug. And I was shocked. I could not believe that. I was just like, I thought you would do more for her, not less for her because she couldn't speak.
Right. Did she have an ADA advocate at all? Did they offer that?
No, that was the thing. Once they closed out the investigation, they didn't even look at my evidence, and I was just like, whatever, I was like, let me try to find some type of help for her, some type of counseling for her. And I started calling around, and I finally, I came across the Children's Advocacy Center, and I looked on their website, and it said like, you know, they give services to non-offending caregivers, and they just went down a whole list of everything that fit what we were going through. And I was just so happy. I was just like, this is perfect, and like I called him up and I was like, hey, like, this just happened, and And the lady, she said, well, I don't think you understand how this works. You can't just come in here. You have to have a referral from one of these agencies. And I said, okay, well, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. I said, I'll
Mhm.
call CYS. They closed the case and they're saying they're not going to reopen it, but I will call them and see if I could get a referral.
Mhm.
So I called them up and they told me to stop calling there because I had already previously been calling them to see if they could open back up the case. I said, you guys didn't even look at my evidence, and they told me to stop calling there. So um, later on down the line, I found out that the child advocacy, they even changed some of their policies because of my daughter's case.
What are they doing? So they changed the policies because of your daughter's case. So they what tried to smooth it over?
Yeah, because they were also in violation. I believe somehow, some way, shape, or form, they were also in violation of ADA laws. So children and youth, they were like, it was on record that they were in violation because they came to court and test. So okay, so when this happened with my daughter, when she was being SA'd, um, I'm the one who made the report. Then mom was on my side at first. Then she began covering up for her sister when she started thinking like, how's this going to look in court?
Mhm.
So she began to tell me after about a week, just send my daughter back into the house with the person. And I said, I'm not doing that until this investigation is complete. So she abandoned me with my daughter for close to 20 days, and she filed a contempt of court saying that I was violating the custody order. So when we go to court, December of 2020, she gets my daughter's SSI check, so she always has money for an attorney. And she she brought the attorney. The attorney subpoenaed CYS. CYS comes to court. I didn't even know they closed the case. They come to court and on their side saying, we closed the case. It was unfounded. So when I was cross-examining them, that's when I questioned them, like, what are the protocols when there's an adult, a 19-year-old, that SA'd a 7-year-old? At the time, my daughter was 7 years old.
Mm.
And they said, well, we do this, we do a collateral with the police. And then I said, okay, so isn't this also a crime? And she said, yes, but to our knowledge, the police are not investigating it, which it was not true. The police were investigating it. That's the only thing that saved me is because the detective was actually, he was doing his job. So instead of them putting finding me in contempt, they placed protections on my daughter because I had evidence. I had a stack of paper of evidence documenting over the years. I mean, I kept reaching out to her mom saying, why is she behaving like this? She's having severe meltdowns anytime it's time to go to her aunt's house. And thankfully, the only reason I had them text messages was because of false allegations that started in 2015.
Mm.
After the first 2 years, I said, and mom never accused me of anything abusing a child. That was never an issue until we went to custody trial. Then she began to use that, which I'm surprised it took that long. So mom was just accusing me of saying like she's scared for her life because of me, even though I've never put my hands on her. She's the one who used to physically abuse me. And so after 2015, I said, you know what? This is crazy. There's nothing I can do about it. The only thing I could do is try to protect myself now.
Mhm.
So what I did was I asked the courts in 2017, 2018, around that time, I asked the courts, I said, I would like to only communicate with her in text message only. Like there's nothing that I can do when she makes a false allegation. So if everything is in text message, if we just do the transfers at the school, we will never have to have contact with each other besides what can be seen.
Mhm.
So that's the only reason I had proof that I've been concerned about my daughter's mother's babysitter for all these years. And it was like nonstop, just questioning her, like, like I was really, I mean, I did a whole investigation in my documentary. You can see in the earlier episodes that I did a full investigation by myself to try to figure out what was happening to my daughter. So
Oh,
that's episode let's see, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
So the false allegations and all that stuff from 2015, that was like episode 14. In Luzerne County, the PFA stuff is bad around here because out of 67 counties in Pennsylvania, we always come in number two or number three in granting PFAs. So we grant more PFAs than I don't know if Allegheny County is in that top three, but out of 67 counties, we grant the most PFAs.
Oh man, that's
Yeah, and
creepy.
so
Oh,
ep episode 16 of my documentary, um, and 17 is the investigation that I was doing, um, an experiment and I was doing because my daughter can't talk, so I only communicate with her mostly through she could talk a little bit, so it's a lot of how I communicate is through body language,
hmm
so uh based off of how I communicate with her, episodes 17 and 18, that was my entire investigation. And my investigation didn't reveal anything. It just so happened that after my investigation, my daughter started displaying all of these behaviors. And when we asked like who showed you these things, she pointed at the aunt, which
hmm
we already suspected it was the aunt.
Now, at one time, I think when we were talking on the phone, that the aunt needed someone to watch her with your daughter, right? Or
Yeah, so okay, so the abuse was revealed in October of 2020. Um,
okay.
the following month, that was at the end of October. So the following month, November, that was like when me and mom were on the same side at first.
hmm
We agreed that she wasn't allowed back over there. And then by December, that's when mom started taking her side, and we went to court. And that's when Judge Amesbury, he put out an order saying, the child is not allowed around the aunt unsupervised until we could confirm that she's not under investigation for sexual abuse. And they had to confirm it because CYS is saying it's unfounded. Um, the attorney is making up this whole story, making it seem like, it's all in dad's head, or, like me and mom weren't, you know, um, on the same side at some point and agreeing that her sister did something to the child. So, the following year, that entire year of 2021, I've by myself fighting for my daughter, fighting to keep her. They're trying to get restrictions. First, they put a contempt of court on me, which if the judge found me in contempt, I could have been locked away, and my daughter would have been with this person who sexually abused her. Um, so after that didn't work, they instead of finding me in contempt, they placed protections on my daughter. So the
hmm
following month, January of 2021, um, they put in a special relief petition to try to lift restrictions off of the aunt because they said the aunt is the child's primary babysitter.
Oh,
And I've fought that entire year to stop them from lifting restrictions. At the end of that year, a second judge sided with me after, evidence was revealed, testimony, and the party's credibility. He sided with me and said the child, he stamped the previous order and said the child is not allowed around this woman
mhm.
unsupervised. And he didn't, and that was it. Case closed. So we were following that order for about a year and a half before I found out that mom wasn't following our custody orders, and that's what brought us back to court.
So it was another judge, a second judge, that said she's not allowed to be around this aunt.
Yes, that was Judge Hughes in 2021. Something that I skipped. Judge Hughes actually, he put a guardian ad litem in our case. And the guardian ad litem, her name was Marcia Basco. She has close ties with CYS as well.
Oh,
She called me up and was, demanding that I pay her $180 and this much per hour. And I said, excuse me, miss, I have no problem with you coming into my residence and doing whatever you have to do, but I don't feel like it's my responsibility to pay you for something that CYS should have done. So,
Hmm.
I will ask the county to foot the bill because I don't have that kind of money to just be paying you. Mom is collecting all the funds for the child and using it for attorneys. I'm over here
Hmm.
spending hundreds of hours, just trying to figure this stuff all out on my own. And this is before AI was out, so I really had to dig deep to find this information and try to figure out, how I was going to defend my daughter in court. So she said, okay, well, you'll just go to court with, I don't work for free, so you'll just go to court without my recommendation. So she goes before Judge Hughes and she gives testimony that would allow my daughter back into the residence with the person who abused her. So I said I would like to question the guardian ad litem on her report. And they were kind of shocked. They're like, wait, you want to cross-examine the guardian? I said, yeah, like, I mean, she wrote this report. I would like to ask her some questions about it. This lady, she didn't even know who my daughter was. She was calling my daughter Jasmine, and I was just like, do you know who Jasmine is? And she was like, yes, that's the child, your child. I said, no, Jasmine is the person who SA'd my child.
Hmm.
And she was just very embarrassed because she never did anything. She never talked to Jasmine. She never went to the house where she's saying she's allowed back in. And when I was questioning her about that, she said, well, children and youth already did their investigation and it was unfounded. So I'm not going to go and go over their heads and I'm just like, well, there's current litigation now because they didn't do any investigation. That's why I subpoenaed them to court and they didn't have to attend and testify because of confidentiality laws. But she knew that I subpoenaed them because I was challenging attend and testify because of confidentiality laws. So she already knew that I was accusing them of not even doing an investigation. So I was questioning her about all this stuff, and she didn't expect me to hit her with some of these questions. So it was very embarrassing for her, and I'm sure the judge was probably feeling some type of way because he appointed her, and it was just horrible. She did such a horrible job. So
Hmm.
3 weeks after that hearing, about 3 weeks after that hearing, maybe a little less than 3 weeks, the director of CYS in 2021 was arrested for endangering hundreds of children. And I was just like, that's a sign that I'm on the right track. This is exactly the reason she was arrested was exactly why I filed my lawsuit against them.
Hmm.
So then after that happened, about a month later, Judge Hughes made his final order and said, denied. We're not lifting any restrictions off of the aunt. And so now this is a second judge that not only ruled in my favor, but the first judge went against CYS recommendations, and the second judge went against a guardian ad litem's recommendations.
Hmm.
So I was very grateful that I succeeded, and also that I was in a law-abiding courtroom because that's how discretion is supposed to work.
Hmm.
Like my daughter can't speak, so you have to use the evidence that's available. That's what gives her a voice, and then you
Right.
also have to go off of credibility. When people are caught in lies, that affects their credibility. Like, if you can't catch me in one lie and you just keep catching the opposing side and lie after lie after lie, I mean that means something.
I would definitely agree with you, especially with Judge Hughes also saying again he was not lifting restrictions off that aunt.
Yes. And
That's
he heard the
amazing.
entire case. We had about 4 hearings before Judge Hughes. So moving forward, when we get into about it was August of 2022, so it was about not even a full year after, well, maybe a little more than a year after he made his ruling, I find out that mom is not following our custody orders. So we get into this big argument, and now she's saying she wants 1 week on, 1 week off. And I'm just like, the only reason the reason why she would want that is because then I want like, okay, so she's going, my daughter's going back to school, and the entire summer I know that mom works at this time. So as I'm, bringing her to school, I warm her up for everything. So I always have to tell her ahead of time what her day is going to look like, and it helps her
Hmm.
with her autism not to have any meltdowns. So,
Hmm.
I was trying to explain to her, you're going to go to school, you're going to go to mommy's house. And, I was saying like, mommy's going to get you off the van. But I thought about it. I'm like, wait, mommy works. So who's going to get her off the van? I know she was, before all the protections came about, her sister would come to the house and babysit. So I'm like, okay, so either like I don't know who my daughter's going to be with, so I just it gets home from school, who's going to retrieve her off the van? She
Hmm.
wouldn't answer the question, and it turned into a big argument because she was like, she just wouldn't tell me, and I'm just like, I'm not dealing with this again. This was so traumatizing, having to deal with not knowing what was happening to my daughter, then to find out what was happening to my daughter. Now we're back to square one where you're and I'm just like, I'm not dealing with this again. And, it turned into an argument. Next thing you
Hmm.
know, she modifies custody and wants 1 week on, 1 week off instead of the 2-2-3 schedule. And I'm just like, the 2-2-3 schedule, it helps me anytime something is going on in my daughter's life, she shows it through it might be different stemming things that she may be doing. She shows it through her body language, so it's much easier for me to figure out like something's not right, there's something going on. So I'm just like, I don't feel comfortable with 1 week on, 1 week off. The 2-2-3 schedule is perfect.
Hmm.
I'm around her for 3 days, she's with her mom for 2 days. I have a weekend, her mom has a weekend. So that's the schedule that we've been doing for years. I would like to stick with that schedule. So when we got to
Hmm.
the mediation in December of 2022, um, I still didn't agree with it. I said, there's been, and um, I don't feel comfortable being away from my daughter for 1 whole week. I mean, this case just ended. Like I'm not ready to be away from her for a week at a time, especially when mom is not abiding by the court orders. She still doesn't accept the fact that her sister is not allowed around the child. Like I don't know what type of family counseling or whatever I know the sister did get counseling, but it's like whatever you guys agreed to, I wasn't a part of that. And this is also my child. So I don't
Hmm.
know what you guys agreed to, but I'm not just acting like nothing ever happened so um we now they have to set us up for a trial because of the fact that I'm not agreeing with the 1 week on, 1 week off. If I would have known that I was going to be walking into a courtroom with a corrupt judge, I would have took the 1 week on, 1 week off. I would have took that in a heartbeat and just prayed that my daughter was safe and just tried to make it work with that. If I would have known that, I would have took that in a heartbeat. So now we're going to trial, and we have a new judge appointed to our custody trial, which is Judge Terra Toohill. She became a judge in January of 2022, and at that time they pulled all the contracts because she had her nonprofit that promotes adoption had contracts with the county with Luzerne County, and they pulled off her contracts once she became a judge. And they didn't say it because she became a judge. They said they pulled the contracts for other reasons.
Hmm.
And so now she's our family court judge. And the first case before her, she asked me, she said, "So wait a minute, you're suing CYS?" And I said, "Well, they need to be held accountable for
Hmm.
not protecting my daughter." And she's like stuttering, and she's just so uneasy about hearing that I'm actually suing CYS. And I'm just like kind of confused. I'm like, why is she so concerned about my
Hmm.
case with CYS? And at the time I didn't know about her nonprofit. I didn't know anything about her, honestly.
Hmm.
And then at the end of that hearing, she found me in contempt for following another judge's order. She for following Judge Hughes and Judge Amesbury's order. She found me in contempt. And I was just
Oh.
like, how I'm like, how can I be in contempt when I'm following another judge's order? So that whole hearing before her, like the custody trial was coming up, and then mom had a contempt of court. And when we went to court for the contempt of court, I had all the evidence shown. I said, hey, I pulled up here. Um, she's not proven. There was a number of times that I sent the child in without seeing that there was an adult present. And I told her, I said, I'm not doing that anymore. There has to be an adult present. Like,
Hmm.
I don't like you're telling me someone's here, but nobody's coming to the door. How am I to know that somebody's here? And mind you, every little thing is in text message because that's the only way I'm agreeing to communicate with her is only in text message so that there's proof. So every little thing that I'm saying is in text message, like every little thing.
Mm.
So as we're preparing for our custody trial, um, now comes they have to build a case now for the custody trial. So now comes false allegations.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first time ever in my life that someone has ever accused me of doing anything to any child, let alone my own child. So
Mm.
this was like the most devastating thing for me. I mean, it hurt so bad because I've been doing nothing but trying to protect her. And I'm not a sick person. I've never had that sickness in my mind. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just not that type of person. And when they accused me of that, I for weeks I was just like crying
Oh.
for weeks. I couldn't even talk about it without crying. And so when I finally went to court, I was upset, and I thought that the judge would also be upset and understand why I was upset based
Mm-hmm.
off of everything that had already previously happened. And I think the judge kind of took offense to me, like coming in her courtroom and kind of raising my voice. But I was just like, when I came in there, I brought my daughter with me because I'm just like, at this point, she abandoned this was when she abandoned me with my daughter a second time now.
Mm-hmm.
Now leading up to the custody trial, she filed a contempt of court because okay, so after the false allegations against my daughter, which was in March,
Mm-hmm.
then we get into this whole thing where she's not showing, proving that she's at work and texting me and saying, send her in, everybody's home. And I said, you have to show me that somebody's here. I'm not just going to keep sending her in.
Mm-hmm.
So after accusing me of false allegations of my daughter showing some type of signs of SA, of being SA'd after leaving my care.
Mm-hmm.
After that, then abandons me with her again. So how is it that you suspect, and even during the trial, um, she was asked like, when did you start suspecting something might be wrong? She said November of 2022, Thanksgiving, and gave this whole story about my daughter showing some type of signs of abuse after leaving my house. But the following month, she asked the courts for 1 week on, 1 week off. So that doesn't make sense. If you believe somebody may have been doing something, why would you want 1 week on, 1 week off? It just doesn't add up.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go to the court for the contempt of court, I'm already upset because of the false allegations. The day before, they sent an unfounded letter and they said, we put the child through a physical examination. We
Mm-hmm.
did this. We did, they followed all these new protocols because of my previous complaint. So everything they didn't do is against me. And so they followed all the protocols and they did a very good investigation. And I was pleased with their investigation, although I was upset that it was, I was like the not the suspect, but the person of interest, I guess you could say, even though that nobody accused me directly, they just said she was showing signs after leaving my house, which is she was showing a lot of signs of abuse. That's how we figured out she was being abused, and that's why I put her into counseling. And them things that she was doing, they started going away. Once she was in counseling, once I had her in counseling for almost a whole year, and so for the contempt of court, um, we went through the whole hearing, and at the end of the hearing, the judge says, "Well, I'm not accepting your argument that you didn't think mom was in the house, and I'm going to find you in contempt." And she started saying the word contempt, and I cut her off and I said, well, hey, you didn't even let me finish questioning mom. You didn't look at none of my evidence. How can you find me in contempt? I'm following another judge's order. And I have all the transcripts,
Mm-hmm.
expressing this entire thing. And then I could tell you which episode if you need me to. Daughter's mom abandoned her with me because I was trying to follow the previous judge's order. That's episode 37 on my documentary. And then when we went to court for the contempt of court, and the judge found me in contempt for following the previous judge's order, that's episode 38 on my documentary. And right after that, this happened, the false allegations weren't working out too well for them. So
Hmm.
now the only thing they really have is a contempt of court claiming I was withholding a child, even though I was just following the previous judge's order, which specifically said if there's not another adult supervising, the transfer is going to be delayed or moved to a different time or delayed until we can ensure that the child is not being left alone with the perpetrator. So that's the order I was following, and I was found in contempt. So when the false allegations aren't working out for them too well, now they tried to frame me. I'm going to pick my daughter up, and I'm attacked. I'm attacked in front of my daughter, and I mean, I always record everything, for my
Hmm.
own protection, dealing with false allegations. I record everything. They didn't know I had a camera out the whole time.
Yeah.
So they attack me, and then they go file criminal charges against me after they attacked me. And I just kept on trying to de-escalate because they wouldn't give me my daughter. I said, "Listen, I'm sorry. Whatever you're saying that I did, I'm sorry. I apologize." And I was prior to that, I just said sorry.
Mhm.
And the whole time I'm recording, and they curse at me, they threaten me, telling me to stop taking her to court, and um, I just eventually they just released my daughter, and I just keep on trying to de-escalate and say I'm sorry, and I'm walking away now. And I got my daughter, and I apologize to her for having to witness this. And after we left, they go and file criminal charges on me, as if I'm the one that came there as the aggressor. And in my documentary, that's episode 39. And I have the video showing them attacking me, and I even went and got a
Mhm.
protection from abuse, and I have to go before the same judge, Judge Terra Toohill, for my protection from abuse. Everything that I have, everything that I'm doing, even child support, I have a child support hearing next month. It's
Mm.
before Judge Toohill. Every single case is before Judge Toohill. And so I go before her. Um, I question them about everything. They lie about everything, and I show the video. I question them again about everything. They tell the truth about everything now. And then the judge denies using my video because they didn't know they were being recorded. And I'm just like, I have every right to record when they threaten my life a number of times. I'm doing this for my protection. I'm in a public street. Like, why can't
Mhm.
I record? And so they denied using my video and denied me a PFA. And then the judge turns around and says the following year, when she took my rights away, she says that I'm a violent person, and pretty much the same way they tried to frame me. Now the judge is like on their side, saying that I'm the one that's violent, even though there's not a piece of evidence showing that I'm a violent person.
Mm.
So I ended up filing, after they denied me a PFA, I ended up filing a contempt of court. The judge waited 7 months. She found me in contempt the day of, when the contempt was filed on me, found me in contempt the day of for filing another judge's order. When I filed contempt with all of the evidence showing their criminal complaints, showing their perjury during this hearing, they committed perjury. They lied and said that they didn't do any of these things, and I was the aggressor. I showed her. I had all that evidence in my contempt of court, and plus I had a bunch of other things that they've done, lied about, and she denies my contempt, but she waits 7 months to do it. And so
Passive
the
aggressive.
next, yeah, it's like I'm just like I just can't win, and I even go to the magistrate and I say, well, she's denying everything. Let me at least try to get some type of justice for them trying to frame me. And I file a complaint. The district attorney eventually throws out my complaint, doesn't even give me a chance to get in front of the magistrate. They never showed up for the hearing, for the false, for trying to frame me. Once they found out I had a video, they, of course, they're not going to show up for the hearing, and that just goes away. It just goes
Mm.
away. Like, and then when I go there and say, hey, can we get back in front of this magistrate because they tried to frame me, they throw my case out. And so the next year, the following year, this is day one of custody trial was, I believe it was in October of 2023. It it was towards the end of 2023. Day two of custody trial was March of 2024, and it was months in between them 2 days. Um, so on day one of trial, the the investigator came to court and she said, we did physical examinations. The child was subjected to this and that, and we found nothing. We found no evidence that there's any type of abuse going on.
Mhm.
And so um, I questioned her about two more times regarding the same thing. And she said it three times that the child has been physically examined. The next day, day two of custody trial, which was months later, the judge takes away all my rights, and she says it's because the child needs to be physically examined. So she subjected my daughter to a second unnecessary physical examination. They call it a RK.
Mhm.
I don't, and that just broke me down because I'm just like, this is physical abuse at this point.
Mhm.
She's physically abusing my daughter, and she ordered it in her order. She says, we're going to give at this point, March 14th, I have shared 50-50 custody. Well, actually, she made me the primary parent. So, okay, so let me back up a little bit. The day she found me in contempt for following another judge's order, she also made me the primary parent because she said, okay, we're going to give dad an extra 3 hours just to suit mom's schedule so that I wouldn't have to drop, so the child won't be left alone with a babysitter for the 3 hours because mom sometimes gets out of work at 6:30, and I would drop off over there around 3. So she gave me an extra 3.5 hours just to suit mom's schedule, but still found me in contempt of court.
Mhm.
So leading up to March 14th of 2024, I had more custody than mom, and it was on paper, it was shared physical custody 50-50. But on that day, after day two of trial, she put an order out and said, we're going to suspend dad's custody and give, she put an interim order saying, we're going to give mom temporary full custody until the child is physically examined. And she gave mom 4 hours to get the child to the hospital to be physically examined. So this is at the end of the day. So there's no way for me to put in an emergency petition and say, wait, hey, wait, stop. The child has already been examined. There's no way for me to do that. So
Mhm.
now I'm just like, I cannot believe, like, the first time the false allegations of, put my daughter through that. I mean, that just opened up, wounds that, I've
Uh-huh.
tried so hard to mend. I've done everything since that happened in 2020. I've taken my daughter to Disney World for her first time. We went out west. We did like a whole tour on the West Coast, the Yellowstone National Park, the Grand Canyon, um, uh, Monument Valley, New Mexico, Denver. I mean, I took her everywhere, just trying to create new memories and get that out of her,
Mhm.
that trauma that she was subjected to for all that time, to just try to,
Mhm.
I was counseling for a year. I was doing everything in my power, and now it just opens up all of them wounds all over again. So they put her through that, and that was all unfounded again. They put her through that same process again, and I put in my emergency petition. And when I got before the judge, I said, this has already been performed. You've already, the child has already been subjected to this. Last year, the investigator came to court and testified, and she said it three times that she's been subjected to this. And the judge is like, well, to the court's knowledge, the child has never been subjected to this. And I'm like, that's not true. She was like, so I started, she started questioning mom, and she was like, well, mom told us something else. Like, she's trying to blame it on mom now. And it's like, you can't blame it on mom because there's actual investigator came to court and told you to your face at day one of trial what happened. So there isn't blaming anything on mom because the evidence is clear. The child has already been subjected to that. She just made a mistake because she's so busy trying to hurt me. So she
Mhm.
made a grave mistake. And so now that it's not working blaming mom, Now she said the lawyer actually had to jump in and save her mom's lawyer because she was just digging herself a deeper and deeper hole trying to justify her actions. And so now she can't blame it on mom. Now she says she starts trying to distinguish what she did, a physical examination compared to a RK, and
Mm-hmm.
making it sound like it's two different procedures. And so
Mm-hmm.
I said it's the same exact thing. I said so I said okay, I want to question mom. So I questioned mom. I said so last year through this procedure, explain to the courts what happened. And she explained the whole story. She came in, they put this scope thing,
Mm-hmm.
whatever they have to do. I mean
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what she went through because I wasn't there. And I said, okay, now explain what happened the second time that you went. And she explained the exact same procedure. So
Mm-hmm.
now that's not working, as far as the judge like trying to justify her mistakes, and just she won't take accountability for what she did to my daughter. And so I'm thinking now like, okay, she's caught red-handed. She knows she made a mistake. So now I'm just like, after that hearing, I'm just like, okay, I should have my daughter back any day now. That was in April of 2024. The next month in May, on my daughter's birthday, May 6th, she puts an order out giving mom custody and giving me visitation, paying at that first supervised visit, it was $80 per hour, and cutting off, suspending all phone communication to where I'm not even allowed to talk to my daughter on the phone anymore. And then throughout her order, she fabricated more than half of the 16 factors of custody and then accused me of SA my child, my baby girl. And she flat out accused me of it in these two episodes. Okay, so here to the unnecessary physical examination. That's episode 41. And when I addressed it in the emergency petition, that's episode 42. So the custody factors that she said within her May 6th order was, I need a mental health evaluation because I accuse CYS of not doing their job. And she's referring to back in
Oh,
2020 and I'm just like and she took judicial notice of all of them cases, but she continues to just cherry pick what she wants to use to create her false
right.
narratives and ignore the rest of the evidence. So she pretty much another thing. Okay, so I don't want to jump around here. I want to try to make it because they make these cases so complex.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
okay, so the first thing when I was at the second day of trial, I asked her. I said, I have my daughter is on my witness list. Are you going to allow her the opportunity to come here and express herself? Because even though she doesn't communicate like a typical child, she has her own way of expressing herself that you just after being around her for a few minutes, you'll understand how to talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, well, I still have to weigh that, because of her being autistic. So here we go again. My daughter being nonverbal, being denied the right to express herself. So I said, okay. And I said, okay. So I said, because I said, when the abuse stopped, which I'm referring to the Judge Amesbury and Judge Amesbury's order, which officially stopped the abuse. I said, because when the abuse stopped, she stopped having severe meltdowns. I said, but now that the abuse stopped, she still doesn't want to go to mom's house. She prefers to stay with me.
Mm-hmm.
In the judge's May 6th order, she says, Dad testified the abuse stopped. How does he know the abuse stopped? This is only something that he, the perpetrator, would know. And I'm just like,
They twisted it.
but it's not even clever. It's like you could look
Ah,
and see that I said the abuse stopped, and I'm referring to a order that stopped the abuse. And she says, like, it's like it's not even clever. It's like you're blatantly being corrupt. You know what I mean? It's like, and then there was another thing she did was I made a video when all this stuff happened back in October of 2020. Who showed you this? Who showed you this behavior? Some of the things she was doing, the SA things she was doing I mean, she knew everything that would be on like a. I was asking her, I said, baby girl, who showed you this? Who showed you this behavior? And she pointed at the person who showed it to her.
Mm.
And then she picks the picture up and she's looking at it and she makes all these like weird faces and then throws the picture down real fast, like if as if it was hot.
Hmm.
And this is one of the things I say, like, I communicate with her through body language. Like a lot of times she can't speak, but she does certain things where you could tell, like, something traumatized her or there's something wrong with this or that. So that was my video. So mom ended up making a video similar, but mom's video was like, the child doesn't know any better. If you ask her, who showed you this, she's gonna point at anybody and say it. So mom made a video and she said, "Who showed you this?" And she had pictures of about 10 different mom's video. She showed her there was about 10 different people and she's asking my daughter, "Who showed you this?" And my daughter will point at each person and said that person showed her. So she pointed at the grandfather, the grandmother. She pointed at herself. Even herself showed her this behavior. She pointed at me. She pointed at the dog. She pointed at her mom. She pointed at both of her aunts. So the judge in her May 6th order says the child was asked who showed her this behavior and pointed at dad. So she leaves out everybody else, the dog, how she pointed at herself, how she pointed at all these other people, and just says she pointed at me. So that is a clear indication that she's trying to frame me, and I mean, this is fraud. She's
Hmm.
she's
Hmm.
deceiving she's deceiving the courts, and the evidence is clear as day. It doesn't get any clearer. Like I mean, that episode where she's doing that is episode 68,
Hmm.
where she's trying to frame me, and then 69 is also them last two stories are also both 68 and 69. And then it gets bad. She just continuously just keeps lying in the order, making up stories. Like they're just some of the stories are just completely made up. Like it's
Hmm.
just like she just made them up by herself. Like there's not even nothing that points to it even being close to true.
Mm. A
And
perpetual
I
liar.
could yeah, it's like I could keep going. I could go with just nonstop, all of the things that she's done in the deception. Um, but the documentary it's I mean, I wish I could have had more time, but I felt that I needed to hurry up and finish this documentary because of like what's happening now. I could be incarcerated for not being able to afford to pay their ransoms,
Hmm.
and uh,
Is there any way you can get Judge Hughes back? Where is Judge Hughes?
well, I've requested that, and it was just denied. Well, she responded. I got the order last week where she responded, and she's claiming I forget what legal term she used, but she's denying me. She already denied her recusing herself 5 or 6 times already.
Oh.
But I did my last petition. I introduced a bunch of new evidence, and I said, can I please have Judge Hughes? I asked the president, Judge Salavantis. She's the president judge in Luzerne County now, and she's also a family court judge. I asked her if she could advise or recommend to my judge to recuse herself. If there's some way we could my case could be appointed back to Judge Hughes, the original judge in this case, and neither of them, Judge Hughes or the president judge, responded. It was just Terra Toohill responded to my petition. I also went into the Luzerne County Courthouse last month with two witnesses, and I gave the evidence to the sheriff's office and I gave the evidence to the district attorney's office, and I haven't heard anything from them either. So I'm hoping that somebody, I hear back from somebody, because the evidence is clear as day what this judge is doing in the superior courts. They don't care. They tried to normalize what she was doing when I went and argued my case before a panel of three judges in
Mhm.
Harrisburg, and they're like trying to normalize what she's doing, and they don't want me talking about her crimes. They kept cutting me off and running my clock down, and I'm just like, I only have 15 minutes to present my case, and I asked them, I said, I would like the meaningful opportunity to be heard. They're trying to get me caught up on stuff that's completely irrelevant. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter, and they want me to spend 5 minutes talking about that. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the crimes that were committed against me and my daughter. So I
Mm-hmm.
had to ask, I pretty much had to ask them to stop doing that. Can you please like let me speak? I would like the meaningful opportunity to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they were doing. Though. They were just trying to normalize what she was doing to me as if it was okay. And then the whole time, nothing was being recorded, but they have a camera there with a little red light. So you would assume that it's being recorded. And they're like, no,
Mm-hmm.
we don't
Oh.
record panel of 3, only panels of 10 or something like that, she said. And that was after the fact, because I should have asked right when I got there if this was a court of record, because I didn't see a stenographer, but I seen the camera, so I figured I could get like a
Mm-hmm.
video record, and it turns out that nothing was recorded. So I don't even have the evidence showing the way they behaved, and I couldn't wait to get that. I was just like, this is ridiculous, the way that they keep cutting me off and talking about stuff that's irrelevant, and they don't want to
Mm-hmm.
hear about the crimes as I'm telling them. They don't want to hear the rest of the story, and I'm just trying to explain to them what she did, and I put it all in my brief as well. But
Mm-hmm.
they dismissed my case, not off of the merits. They made it clear, we're not saying that you don't have merit. It's just the way that you told us. You didn't tell us properly. So that's why we're dismissing your case.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it's procedural stuff like oh, your concise statement of matters wasn't concise. Like, and I even asked them within that back and forth roll to show calls. I said, listen, if my daughter's going to be subjected to more harm because of technicalities, fairness, it would only be right if you appoint me an attorney. Like, I don't have $10,000 for an attorney. That doesn't mean a judge should be able to commit crimes against me because I can't pay into the bar association.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a funny thing is, not it's not funny at all, actually. It's disturbing. As I'm going back and forth responding to the rule to show calls, then the judge is continuously lying, claiming there's no basis in the record that she has close ties with CYS, and just a bunch of lies, like trying to frame me. Literally, she's still to the Superior Court as she's arguing back and forth, trying to get me dismissed before I even get to argue my case. um the same month that she's writing back to the Superior Court, she has an interview with the Bar Association about Caden's law. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, these people are sick. Like, they are exploiting the death of children.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I heard there's a child dying every 6 days, and then I see all these advocates, trying to reform the family court, and every single time it's the bar association standing in the way and saying, well, we can't do that because of domestic violence, and this, a child is already dying every 6 days. How, like, I don't understand how this is happening. Like, I don't understand how parents are committing, I don't even want to say the word committing s um parents are becoming addicted, parents are becoming violent. you know Anytime something like that happens, we should be able to look into the case to see what caused it. Because a
Right.
lot of these cases, they might they seal up these cases, but um a lot of these horrible things that happen, it's like they're guilty of it's indirect causation. Like, they might not have directly caused it. Some of the cases they do directly cause it, but their actions or inactions over time led up to this. And anytime somebody is no longer with us, we should be able to trace back to see what happened. Anytime somebody does something, we should be able to trace back to see what happened. What they're doing is they'll just focus on the action, not what led up to the action.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like, between the bar associations, Um, I don't even, it's so hard to even, I don't even know what to say anymore. I did do a episode on that, and that's 77,
Mm-hmm.
70, episode 75, the Bar Association and the high conflict cases, because that's what they do. They purposely create high conflict cases. And it was shocking to me. I did a whole episode on this as well, that my judge, she used to be on the judicial committee in the House of Representatives. There's a
Mm-hmm.
man by the name of Mark Ludwig who goes around the country trying to pass shared parenting laws, and he was in Pennsylvania in 2019. And the bar association is sitting right there, with their own psychologist saying why it's not a good idea to have shared parenting, which they're it's a paper trail of what they're doing. It's across the country that they're doing this. And so as I'm sitting there watching Mark, across the table from him is Judge Toohill. And I'm just like shocked. I'm just like, what is she doing here? And I was just like, oh yeah, right. She was on the committee and she was in the House of Representatives before she became a judge. So I looked deeper into that, and here she is posing with the Bar Association after that meeting. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, these people have an agenda, and it's like this has to end. It's like the evidence is clear as day. I mean, they have the documentary called Divorce Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
um, they have I Care a Lot. That gets it. I mean, that's a movie, but it gets into. Oh, actually, they have The Guardian, which is an actual documentary with true facts in it. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's clear what they're doing. They're exploiting the vulnerable people. They're
Mm-hmm.
exploiting the elderly. They're exploiting the children. They're exploiting families who do not have enough funds to hire an attorney. And they've been doing it for a very long time. And they are getting rich off of Title 4E and Title 4D incentives.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to stop. It has to end. We have enough evidence. We have enough documentaries showing what they are doing.
Right.
So this just has to end. Like
Right.
it's sad what's happening to children and to innocent parents.
And you're dealing with another Kids for Cash judge to bring it
Yes,
full
that's
circle. Here we go
yep.
again.
I believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly, that this is like they have a plan, and I feel like I threw a monkey wrench in their plan, because I mean, I don't I don't have that much knowledge, in the law, but what I do have is the truth, and
Mm-hmm.
that's all I'm focusing on is the truth. And the judge made a number of comments about CYS throughout my entire case. They just keep mentioning CYS, 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 and even said I need a mental health evaluation. Excuse me, because of my complaint. Last month, June 30th, I received a letter from the United States Health and Human Services agreeing with me that CYS did violate my daughter's rights. So here's a
Mm-hmm.
judge using my complaint against me as if it's a bad thing. And here's evidence that I just created systemic change and made it better for all children with disabilities in Luzerne County and across the state of Pennsylvania. And I'm not saying this across the state of Pennsylvania as if my complaint um you know um drove change for the entire state, but it was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there was a bunch of other people, that they might have violated disabled child or whatever, and this was already some stuff that was already happening. But my complaint definitely, it's part of what they are doing across the entire state. But it most definitely created systemic change within Luzerne County, and I've witnessed it. That, when they hit me with false allegations, they actually did a full investigation for my daughter, and I was grateful for that. I'm just like, thank you. You
Mm-hmm.
actually, you guys are actually doing what's right now, and that was mostly based off of my complaint and the director being arrested for endangering children, hundreds of children, even though there was never nothing like the children she endangered. I don't know if there was any autistic children in there or what, but
Mm-hmm.
I know in my particular case, um, is specifically how they investigate autistic children, and they're required now to go through all this type of training.
Mhm.
So I'm grateful. I do have a victory out of all the losses I've been taking. I do have, at least that to show I'm not crazy. I don't need a
No.
mental health
Mm-mm.
evaluation for making that complaint. I made it because it felt wrong in my heart and in my soul that they did that, and I knew it was wrong. So that's why I made the complaint.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So um,
And I'm grateful you made the complaint. I'm sure other parents are grateful as well.
yes,
More people should complain. I encourage everyone to complain. I really do.
yes,
Even from being a nurse, I was filing complaints left and right because if you don't do right by the if the previous shift did not do right by the patient, then I have to write it up or some other nurse has to write it up. So that's how you run a tight ship.
yeah. It's
So,
important. I feel like we're all a piece of the puzzle, and it's like what's right is right. Like we have to be there for each other. We have to um like even another reason I need a mental health evaluation, according to this judge, is I accused the van driver of SA or something like
mhm,
that. And I'm just like, what? They took a story when I was advocating for another child. And I'm just like, you know, it takes a village to raise a child, so like I'm the father that's coming to my daughter's school to
mhm,
drop her off and to pick her up. And I have a very close connection with the teachers. I'm at every
mhm,
parent teacher conference. As I see there's the van with full of children with disabilities. There's constantly new van drivers. Out of the 7 or 8 different van drivers over the years, there's a new guy, older man, and he was doing. I seen something very inappropriate with one of the autistic children,
mhm.
and I'm just like, it is my duty. I'm a mandated reporter. It is my job. I'm required to report anything like that. So I stopped and I observed for a little while just to see what was happening. And he spoke to me and he said something very inappropriate.
Mhm.
And I said, okay, he doesn't seem like he's all there. I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna tell the teacher what I just observed. And she's also a mandated reporter,
Oh
of
yeah.
course, so she has to do her job. So that was it. I made the report to the teacher, and then I said, let me get in contact with the transportation coordinator and try to figure out why is there cameras on the buses with children who could speak, and there's no cameras on the vans with
Oh,
the children who cannot speak.
right.
So, I mean, we went through, I called him back and forth, and he, eventually it came to the point where he said, look, uh, at our next meeting when we renew the contract, I'm going to require that they have cameras, on the vans. He said, that's a very good point, and I'm glad that you brought this to my attention. So this judge used that situation and said, I need a mental health evaluation because of that. And I'm just like, I'm helping people in
Ah,
the community. I'm doing a good thing. How can someone just have so much power that's just unchecked and they could just say and do whatever they want, And then another reason I need a mental health evaluation is mom signed our daughter in the middle of the SA litigation in
mhm.
2021 when she wasn't allowed to use her aunt anymore as a babysitter. She signed the child up for overnight daycares without telling me. And
Ah,
it's part of our custody order that we have to tell each other in a forthright and timely manner. We have to come right out in any agencies that's dealing with the child,
mm,
especially a child that cannot speak for herself. So I find out that she has a child. I was actually driving truck at the time, so I was about to start driving truck. I just got my CDL, so the new job I was getting, I was going to need a daycare for one day out of the week. And when when I told mom, as we're required to by the custody order, I said, I'm going to be signing her up for daycare. I'm going to try this daycare over here. And well, I'm going to take her to this daycare over here. And then this one, I'm going to see which one she wants to go to. I always give my daughter options.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, okay, well, when you find out which daycare, let me know. It turned out being the same daycare that she had already enrolled her in. So I find out, and I'm just like, this, you're not allowed to do this. I said, this is against our custody order. You cannot just sign her up for a daycare, especially in the middle of somebody just did something to her, like, and now you have her in another daycare without telling me. And like, I could have took her the days that you had her in the daycare.
Right. Right.
So now in the judge's order, she takes that incident, even though it's all documented. Like I said, there's text messages for all of this stuff. She takes that incident and say, I need a mental health evaluation for accusing the daycare of doing this to the child. And I'm like, I never accused anybody. I just told mom you're not allowed to sign her up for a daycare without telling me. So the judge even says, I need a mental health evaluation because of that incident. And then there's even a text message of mom saying, well, you know, um, if you don't like it, take me to court. It's actually become a part of my life. I'm actually starting to like it. So there's like stuff in
Yeah.
there where you could see me. I'm trying my hardest because I don't like drama. Like, I want to live my life. I want to take care of my daughter. I want to be happy. I don't want to keep going back and forth to court. So you constantly see me trying my hardest to get along with her.
Right.
Like, you don't see, like some cases you could see just two bitter parents just like not just making things difficult. You don't see that with me. You
Mm-hmm.
actually see me trying, for the sake of our child. You see me
Mm-hmm.
trying to get along with her, and you literally see her just no care in the world, laughing. Like, that's the day I was found in contempt. I'm showing the judge. I'm like, she's laughing at me as I'm trying to drop our daughter off. She's laughing at me. And I come back 2 days in a row, and she won't take the child unless I send her into a house without knowing for sure that somebody's gonna,
This
it's
is
like,
terrible.
who would abandon their child for weeks over a minor drop off dispute? And I'm following the judge's order, so it really shouldn't be like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like there shouldn't be any issue at all because I'm following the judge's order. But even so, like, it's a minor drop off dispute. Like, who abandons a child for weeks over a minor drop off dispute? So that's why, like, some people say, like, well, why aren't you mad? Why aren't you mad at your ex? You seem to just be focused on the judge. And I'm like, well, she may have initiated it, but the most powerful person in the situation is the judge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's, we need to focus on, they want us to be fighting with each other. Can you imagine how many men took their anger out on the spouse because of what the judge and the attorney was putting them through? That's horrible because this person, such as my daughter's mother, she may just need a judge to say, hey, listen, you're wrong. Stop doing this or you're going to be held accountable. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like even for someone who's dealing with something and they may need some type of help, that alone is enough to say, you know what, I have to change my behavior or it could land me in jail, for false allegations or for not following the judge's order. So that's why I'm so focused on the judge because it's a judge's job and duty. When I come with evidence, yeah, I don't have an attorney, but I have evidence that speaks for my daughter. It speaks for our situation as a whole. And your job is to administer justice. Your
Right.
job is to, you know, let her know she is wrong. If nothing else, if you're not going to court order counseling, if you're not going to take away her custody, at least tell her, hey, you're wrong. Stop doing this. This
Mm-hmm.
is not okay. That's it. So, something as simple as that. And they're not doing that. Instead, they're encouraging bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
Boy, this is
I
terrible.
I get so emotional thinking about it, and I'm not the greatest speaker, so I don't know.
No, I thought you did great.
I'm sure
I could talk to
we're
you
over
all day.
time.
No, no, I could
Oh,
talk to
thank
you
you,
all day.
thank you. I appreciate you.
You
I'm
know.
I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm not a person to get in front of the camera. I'm certainly not a person that want my private life all over the internet, but it's like I have no other option. I'll do anything for my daughter. That's my baby
Mhm.
girl, and I'll do whatever it takes to get her, back back home and out of harm's way because now, you know, her mother could hardly care for her on a shared custody schedule. Now she has full custody of her, and now saying that she's
Mm.
excuse me, saying she's not able to support her.
Oh.
She went and got on government assistance. She also had another baby, so
Mm.
now they're saying like she's not able to support her, but she never wanted what the situation. She wanted 1 week on, 1 week off. Even day two of custody, the judge asked her again what she wanted. It was still the same thing, 1 week on, 1 week off. Now the judge is making her own decision to say, well, we're going to take away all of his rights and we're going to put him on supervised visits and we're going to subject him to all this, unnecessary stuff because the judge is pretty much like, because I don't like you and I can
Mm.
do this, it's like I can do what I want.
It's like vengeance.
Yeah, right, vengeance. And this judge, um she actually has a PFA on another representative. When she was a representative, she filed a PFA on another representative and destroyed his whole career. And granted,
Oh.
they did say that it was when that Me Too stuff was coming out,
Mm-hmm.
and they said that she was being abused by this guy like years prior, and she just finally grew the courage to come out and talk about it. And so when I was looking into that whole situation, there's people saying like, that man, they were apart for all these years. She made this report 1 month before his wedding day, and
Oh.
he was gonna run for like Senate, and it destroyed his whole career. He resigned. They barred him from the Capitol at first, and took his firearm. He was like in the military and all this stuff. And,
Oh my
he ended up just
God.
moving back to his home in Delaware. She destroyed his entire life, and that case was public. It was, all on the news. They're like, House representatives getting a PFA on, and she did it
Oh.
right in Luzerne County, right in the same county as the Kids for Cash scandal and same county that I'm being
Oh.
abused in now. Mind you, this is the county where um, every PFA is granted. Mostly, like if
Right.
you're a man getting a PFA, they're not going to grant it. But any woman that comes in with wanting a PFA, they're going to grant it.
Sorry to hear all of that. And I'd like to have you back on for an update, if you'd like to
Yes,
come
I
back
would
on.
love. Yeah, I would love to come back on, and maybe by then my mind would be a little more clear, and I could put my sentences together and my
Oh, you did
story in a more
fabulous.
chronological order.
You did. You did great. You did great.
Oh,
How
thank you.
how can people reach you if they have any questions?
Oh, so Justice Will Be Served USA. There's a couple different advocates that will be running that page just in case they try to silence me. The page will still be in operation. And you can reach me on my Facebook, which is David Thurston, or email or phone number. So
Oh,
anybody who
don't give
has
out your
my
number. Don't give out your number.
okay, I was gonna say like anybody who has my number, I always tell them like I always give my number out to people because I mean, it
I found
doesn't
out the
like to
hard
me.
way.
Okay, okay. So I'm gonna think twice about that from now
Yeah.
on. But yeah, so my social media page, David Thurston on Facebook, and then Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Also, Justice Will Be Served USA.
Okay, I'll put that in the podcast notes, but don't jump off, okay?
Okay,
Okay,
thank you,
sure. Slam the Gavel's a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe, Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you, David Thurston, for speaking out. I really appreciate you.
thank you.